You got to learn how to talk about serious things at time, things we need to discuss at time. But when we on date night, we don't bring up seriousness because anything can just set it off.
Right.
And if it does, all your good time that you're supposed to be booed up having fun, you're arguing about chores and money and stuff. So we had to learn. And that's one of the things we try to teach people, teach couples is...
Welcome to today's episode of Relationship Talk with a Guest. The evolution of a relationship from engagement to 20 plus years of marriage is a complex and dynamic process. Couples face unique challenges and joys based on their individual circumstances. However, regular communication, mutual respect, and ongoing efforts to nurture the relationship are key components of a successful long-term partnership. We have two special guests with us today. We have Pastor Cam and First Lady Wausheka McClary. They are approaching their silver anniversary, and they've been married for over 24 years. So you know they're gonna have some gems for us. If you haven't already subscribed to our channel, click the subscribe button so you won't miss out on the new content when it drops.
Thank you guys so much for being here and sharing in this collaboration to expand our community and support system for married and engaged couples. Our mentor often says you can't be your best self by yourself. So we are gathered here today to work toward being our best selves. All right? So my first question is for my man, Pastor Cam. You know I gotta holler at my brother first. I wanna know, how did you meet First Lady Wausheka, and how did you know that she was the one God created to be your helper and life partner?
Well, if you want to go with when we first met, I didn't know and didn't want to.
Oh, boy, that
is a common...
Yes.
We actually met when we was children. We went to the same church. Okay. When Shika came home from North Carolina, she would come to church. Okay. We was children. We was under probably 10.
Did she ask Sadie because she was coming from the city?
Oh yeah, she thought she was better than us. Talking down to us. Oh, yeah, y'all country folks.
Okay, so that's how we going. Okay. I see where we going.
She coming from up north, and I'm like,
y'all behind.
Yeah, y'all. So, and that's how we met. But we didn't really, just crazy children. Yes. Didn't really get along. Fast forward a few years, she moved back to Elberton because she's from Elberton, and I tried to date her. I guess I wasn't ready.
What made the switch? Because if you weren't feeling her when she was about 10,
she looked a little different.
Oh boy, when she came back, and so, but I tried and it didn't work out. But then I found Jesus, and well, the best thing about it is we was kind of counseling each other in bad relationships.
Oh yeah.
And then two friends started to look at each other differently. And how we got together, she was talking to a mutual friend. I was talking to the same person about how we liked each other. And kind of like high school stuff. I don't know if she liked me. I don't know if she liked me. And
tell her.
and tell her this. And then we started dating, and we dated about a month. And I asked her to marry me.
Wow. A month.
Yeah, and we started dating September the 15th. We got married next year on September the 11th.
Remember the day?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So that's our little love in a small nutshell.
When she said no, when you tried to date her and she was like no, was she mean about it, or was she just like
She kind of gave you the polite no.
Well, it wasn't polite.
It wasn't polite. Not right now. I'm working on me. You know, that's she ain't give you none of that.
You know what? I was so hurt from the no. I don't remember all of what she said, but it wasn't. I know it wasn't a polite no. It was like, you trying to be something you not. I was in the world. I was doing my own thing.
Okay, now come on with the truth.
Come on with the truth.
I was doing my own thing. But she was looking at me every Sunday at church. I came to church, and so it just I wouldn't on her level yet.
The reason I'm asking that is because you kept going. You kept pursuing her after a no. So there had to be something there that you saw. And that's why I wanted to know how she let you down, because it had to be in a way that you were still interested.
Well, it went, I guess I don't remember. It was a hard no.
Did that make you want her more? You like, oh, I want her.
Oh, I gotta have her.
Right.
You know, I gotta have her. You know, the mom tell me no, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
But again, I got saved in September of '97, and what really kind of sparked it, she was in charge of our youth service that year. And I had accepted my calling to preach, and she had asked our pastor, was it okay if I spoke at our youth service? And then she asked me, and I think them sparks was already kind of, and so, you know.
So it went, that's where it went.
Yeah. She didn't want to ask me out on a date. She said, can I get him to speak at the youth service?
Now, see, look, two sides to every story, and then the truth. I want to hear, look, I'm coming.
Come with it.
Come on, let me get the other side.
So I won't add to the story about how I was in North Carolina and came here for the summers and moved back. That's all accurate. But when I did come here,
That's not accurate.
Little sprinkle.
let me put my little twist on it. So I was in the throes then of trying to figure out, like, what was I really, really into? What was I interested in? Who was I looking for? And that kind of thing. And while I was connected to an absolute not best person for me, no shade.
Like I said, you gotta kiss a few frogs.
However, there was something about Cam and where he was at the time, like how he was maneuvering, how he was moving around and that kind of thing, that was just a real turnoff for me, because I could clearly see that's not you. So although he was moving in a way that very much mirrored some of the other entanglements I had been a part of, it's just like, like I really know I don't want to stay in this vein with these individuals who move to the beat of this drum. But you, sir, don't even fit in this space. And so, like, I am turned off by this you that you're trying hard to be, because you think this is the one I want. Right. So I'm looking for realness. And so after, he finally realized, he needed to say yes to God. God was doing some things in him. Instantly there was oh my God, that's Cam. That's Cam. And so, then, our friendship, as he stated, just evolved and emerged. And I mean, it was like little schoolgirl kind of thing. Like, oh God, I like him, but I don't want to ruin our friendship, and vice versa. So it ended up being a mutual, like he said, we were both communicating with the exact same person about each other and how we felt about each other, both sharing our inhibitions to let one another know how we felt, because we didn't want to mess up our friendship. Because, it's like, golly, now it's awkward, because, we were just hanging, and now it's like, ooh, she liked me. So anyway, that one person finally told him, and afterwards told me that he had been talking to her about me too. And so he asked me out. And that was it.
Isn't that the best foundation? I know a lot of people that say, but we're friends, I don't want to ruin it. And it's like, no, you need that.
You do.
Because sometimes you're not going to like the husband or wife, but but the friend part.
That's right.
Like, this husband and wife stuff we doing is annoying me right now. But because you my dog.
That's right.
Because you my friend, you have that.
Before I know, like they say, you got to love the crust of somebody.
Right.
You got to know all that little stuff about them and still be like, you know what, I like you.
That's right. That's right.
Can you still have fun when life is lifing?
Life is lifing.
And sex might not be sexing or bills might be over here. But can y'all eat a hot dog and laugh together?
Right.
A pack of noodles.
That's good stuff.
Like, are you friends?
So marriage is a relationship that endures ups and downs. And so the butterflies, the in love feeling that may come and go based on different circumstances. But what carries people through is purpose. Yeah. So there has to be a purpose for the union that means more to you than the way you feel.
Right.
The purpose is what makes you have the different conversations, attend the counseling sessions, forgive, love outside of your comfort zone, etc. So what do you think God's purpose is for your union, and what types of things has he accomplished and still wants to accomplish through you because you're together?
You know, when I was praying and I said, Lord, I want someone that's in ministry, called to ministry like me,
Yes.
that has children. I had children before we got married, and God brought us together. So yes, this is the purpose for our marriage, our wedding, who we are. We got married on 9/11.
Really?
Yes, 9/11, 2 years before the World Trade Center.
Wow.
And I'll never forget, I was praying one day and I was like, Lord, this is really bad. You know, what's going on? And he said, I want you to see your marriage like those buildings going down. The World Trade Centers. They went down to, one at a time. But then I'm going to rebuild something greater. And so what he showed me with like me and Sheka was all our past collapsing and being destroyed, and God building us on the right foundation to move forward. And so now, of course, we're called into ministry, but we didn't find out about our marriage ministry until we started lifing. It took another man of God to say, do y'all realize y'all have a marriage ministry that's going to impact countless marriages? We would hardly even get remember, we pastoring and we were having our own issues. But God birthed out of that love and unity and peace and in a ministry that has, we counsel a lot of couples that don't even go to our church. Don't even attend our church, have married couples. They have never set foot in our church. So I know our purpose is marriage and family, and we were a blended family. And then another thing, God bless us to help families and marriages with business, through our failures with finances and things like that. We've tried our best to be a blessing to others from our failures. You learn more about God in the valley than you do on the mountaintop. And so what he's developed in us is, and the reason I know it has lasted, because of his grace and mercy, and ultimately because of his purpose for our lives. And so.
Just to add, I think one of the other things too is there's a urgent call right now for any individuals that are serving in any capacity of ministry, leadership, or whatever the case may be, to present ourselves in a position of transparency. And so that is what Cam and I bring to the table. So, Cam, who was born and raised in church, church is all he ever knew. I, however, knew church in the summers when I came to visit my grandmother. So there was that whole other part of the year where I was engulfed in other things, other environmental factors and things of that nature. We were just doing life, just trying to make it. My mom, single parent of 2 children, and we were just doing life as people do life if they are not in church, okay? So that can mean a lot of different things. However, those experiences sharpen my senses for when I'm sitting in a space and I'm sitting with people who are talking about, if they're talking about the word, if they're talking about God, if they're talking about life, I have a meter that gauges realness and authenticity. And so I'm like, I have a filter, internal filter where I can appear to be engaged, but at the same time, completely dismissing, what's being spoken, because
you see the real them.
I see the real them, and I see that you just are spewing knowledge that you're not really connected to, and so there's really not an anointing or a power on that. Right. So then all of those experiences, I went through a period of time where I was asking God, why am I agitated and annoyed when I'm in certain settings where people are doing, but it's just talking and not saying nothing and that kind of stuff. And I'm annoyed. God, what is this? Because ultimately my personality is bubbly and, engaging and hospitable, But then I'm in these settings where I am just about to explode because I'm frustrated. And so then talking about how a ministry will evolve, it was through that God taught me, you're agitated and annoyed because the authenticity and the realness that I am birthing in you is rejecting this foolishness, right? So then not to throw shade on anybody who's in that space, because they got to come to that level of awareness for themselves. But what it did for me was, now when I call you and when I ask you to do, then I need you to come with the truth. And the only way I know to come with the truth is I'm going to open my word. I'm going to teach you what God says, but I am also going to talk to you about Cam and Sheikah. Mm-hmm. I'm going to talk to you about the real stuff. We're going to put the ugly, raw, naked truth on the table, and we're going to sort through that thing. And we're going to do it in a way where God's going to put his super on the natural that we're talking about, and he's going to build something great as a result of it. So when you talk about what our purpose is, the only thing I'm adding to it is what we also bring is a sense of comfort, for individuals who we've been blessed by God to be able to impact or to be able to touch in some way, while at the same time being impacted by them. But we do so because we're not ashamed to talk about where we've been, what God's doing right now, because we know that all of it is for the benefit of those who will hear, what it looks like to have overcome. So,
right. That's right. Which leads us to, so in a previous episode, we talked about the connection of sexuality and Christianity. And one of the things that we were talking about was the conversation's not being had in churches. Mm-hmm. And so there were 4 of us talking, and I was the only one that talked to people in church about it. But it was because I asked questions. Yes. So they were like, no, nobody taught me about sex in church. No. Mm-hmm. So since you guys have a church, what is your stance on that? Like, how do you teach about remaining sexually pure? We were like, how do we do it? Because none of us had been successful. Uh-huh. We was like, we ain't do it. Uh-huh. So how do we have this conversation with, young people that have that goal? What do you tell them? Like, what do you even teach them to, what do you say?
Okay, well, I'm going to start with so much more than read your Bible.
And
pray.
Ooh, that was it.
Right.
Yeah, hold on to God's unchanging hand. That's the advice I got. Keep your mind stayed on Jesus.
That's it.
So hold on.
She lead me this way
now. See what she got? I can't think about Jesus.
So because we too, have the experience of not having had that moment where we, nonetheless, we say to individuals, it is important to teach people, 1, systems of accountability, 2, activities, because the truth of the matter is, when we've got time that we don't assign to something productive, it will either be wasted or it will be spent on something that is not going to be productive or potentially destructive. So we have to be mindful to talk to people about the importance of, there are certain number of hours in the day that we're going to be awake, alert, and doing things. So let's just separate ourselves from that moment that we know that we're going to be sleeping. So these awake hours, what are you going to be doing from one moment to the next? And when we know that we are in that place of vulnerability where we can easily be enticed or tempted, then we've got to be intentional with making sure that we planned for our day and hold ourselves accountable to our day. And I'm emphasizing for our day because I can say, do this for your life. But that's a big chunk. So let's break it down even day by day. And in some regards, we even have to break it down hour by hour, making sure we have individuals that we trust that hold us accountable, people that not only we trust to hold us accountable, but people we feel safe with. Because unfortunately, there have been experiences that people have, shared. I have my own moments that I could talk about where people didn't know what to say. And then sometimes not knowing what to say, they cause more or wreak more havoc on one's psyche and spirit than good, through a countenance and a demeanor of condemnation more than it is exaltation and building. People don't mean to sometimes. But sometimes they you ought not, and you should have, you ought to be ashamed. Like, oh, what? Girl, no.
You did, because you did too.
Right. And so my response even to moments like that was always, let me stop you. There is nothing you can say that brings more shame to me than how I already feel. There is no conviction that you can throw at me that is bigger than what I already feel. I've come to you because I want to know how to get up. Period.
Right. When you were young, did you have that?
No, ma'am.
So like, how do we teach people to even get to a place where they can, advocate for themselves spiritually?
So,
you be like, that's what I need.
Yes. It starts with going back to what I said about that place of transparency and that even that place of vulnerability. So we've got to know that there's a time and a place for us to say what we need to say, whom we need to say it to, respecting our integrity and our dignity at the same time. However, there comes a time where people have to know a little bit more than, you don't know what I've been through. Woo, child, if it hadn't been for the Lord. And so I'm on the edge of my seat because I'm in a crisis right now. So what might that have been? What was it that God did for you? Talk to me about when, you were tempted and how you almost slipped, or tell me about when you did slip and how you got up. Yes. So that is, so going back to, like I said, about the ministry that we have is one where I'm going to talk about me. I'm going to let you know. And so therefore you don't have to read about it, and you don't have to be in a spot where, here I am flowing, and now the glory of God is what's being, transmitted. So then you don't have to say, because I'm going to tell you. Right. Because I want you to know that this is what glory looks like. For God to have taken this vessel who was here and did this with. And so now what we do is create an environment and an atmosphere where the one that's broken can say, she does get me. He does feel me. Mm-hmm. And so now we've created a safe space where now these individuals who are in those places know that, first of all, they've got somebody they can go to. Because unlike this time that we're living in now, I came through the time where I had stuff, but I was surrounded by people, who told me, you need to pray. Well, you ain't got no faith. You must don't read your word. Yes. Things like that. Yes. But there was the imbalance of telling me the things to do and the practicality of the things. So they people weren't doing that. And that's no shade to them. They did what they knew, gave us what they could to get us over. So then we now being the bridge between now making sense of what they said and, that's what they meant. Now we do. And so when we present to those who are coming now behind us, we're saying to them, let me tell you what grandmama said. And this is what that meant. And this is what it looks like.
That's what it looks like. Come on.
Because if you just say pray, then you're going to pray and then you're going to get up and get bent over. Because it ain't nothing behind. Baby, you ain't got the strength. You need to stay up out of this situation.
Like you said, you was in church all the time too, right? Yeah. In church all the time.
I was thinking this man talking about this is good. I believe. I'm still looking, I'm trying to.
Right. Mm-hmm. He's trying to get somebody to come on outside during church.
Outside church. So that's another story. My grandma rolling over a grave. She knew what I was doing. And then after her church. Boy. Whew. All right. So listen, I'm gonna move on because that's a hot topic right there. I've been waiting on this one though. This is the question we need y'all wisely. Counsel, we need some ideas. We have 2 small kids, ages 4 and 1, and they take a lot of time and energy. We have to be super intentional about prioritizing our time, intimate time. Mm-hmm. So you guys got a blended family, right? 5 kids, 6. Whoo, Lord. How did y'all meet your needs, their needs, and prioritize your intimate time when they were all still at home? Wow. Yeah, give us something. Please.
When our children were smaller, I worked rotating shift. I worked first, second, and third. So there was a lot of times I wasn't at home at night, or I was getting home late at night. So we had to be in Shika more than I. Because my mindset, I'm not thinking about romance and intimacy. I'm thinking about paying these bills. And if we do get some in, it's fine. Because that's what I'm thinking about.
Right. Because I got to get back out.
Got to get back out and pay these bills. Got to be a good provider. So she was much better at it than making sure we had quality time for one another. I remember we were so broke. We were so broke. Our first vacation that we took was, she said, baby, we going to the beach today. I said, okay, how are we gonna pay for this? She could pull out a beach towel, had fixed us some food. She had put the children to bed, fixed us some food, and we sat down in the den, just me and her, spending quality time with one another at the beach, dreaming, but being thankful for what we had.
Absolutely.
We would take time sometimes when we could get a babysitter, because Cameron, our youngest child, is a special needs child. A lot of people didn't want to keep him. They would keep the girl, they didn't want to keep. But when we would, I remember times we would go to Dairy Queen and buy one ice cream cone, and people would think, oh, that's so cute. They eating one ice cream cone. They didn't know that's all the money we had to buy with one cone. We scraped that up. So she was very intentional making sure we created an environment where we were together. Now, there were many times, because like I said, we had a special needs child. Cameron slept in the room with us for years, and so we had to wait until he went to sleep or make sure he was asleep. But you got to stay focused and make sure you take advantage of the time that you do have, and don't lose the time when you finally get time by arguing and fussing about something that you lose the time. I'll tell you this last story. It's two stories. We finally got a babysitter. Our children were a little older. We finally got a babysitter. We was going out on a date. We was going to Athens. On the way to Athens, we got into this heated argument. I'm talking about right about Hull, Georgia. We got into this heated argument. Went all the way to Athens, went to a restaurant. We sitting down at a restaurant. I ain't eating with you. I don't even want to be here. I said, well, I'm going to eat with you. We're hoping to go. So we ended up leaving the restaurant, didn't eat, got in the car on the way back home, made up in Colma, Georgia. We made up and said.
On the same trip.
Same trip.
Made up when there ain't nowhere else to stop to get no food.
We made up. I said, well, let's go to Anderson and we'll be good. Went to Anderson, had another blow up. So we finally went through a Wendy's drive-thru. I got me a burger. She didn't eat nothing because I don't want to be with you. So our whole night was ruined because we had not learned when you have time, you got to learn how to talk about give serious things a time, things we need to discuss a time. But when we on date night, we don't bring up seriousness because anything can just set it off.
Right.
And if it does, all your good time that you're supposed to be booed up, having fun, you're arguing about children, money and stuff. So we had to learn. And that's one of the things we try to teach people, teach couples, is give time and space to things. So you said about small children, you just got to make time. When they sleep, they playing, use that time.
Mm-hmm. And the key is make it quality.
Make it quality.
Make it quality. And that is going to look different from one episode or instance to the next, but that is and so a moment of transparency. It took us a minute to get there, even when our children were smaller, because he started out with, he was in that space where I got this and this, and even intimacy was on that list of for him, and it was just check off the list, because he had a mindset of there's some things that need to be taken care of. I'm one of them. That's how it's gonna be. Blah 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 blah. Right. And I went along with it, for a couple of years, and then finally I was like,
It ain't working for me.
Stop. This is not how we do this. We got to redo this. And so
I had to learn. She also had to teach me.
But that's the key. That is exactly where I was going. You can be in a situation, husband and wife, where you're complaining about what's broken or complaining about what's not right, complaining about what you don't like. You can spend countless hours, years doing that. Or you can take that same energy and decide, well, if these things aren't working, first of all, you got to be intuitive enough with yourself to know why it isn't working. So you can say to someone, I don't like this, or this not working, blah, 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 blah. But if you, first of all, are not internally aware why that isn't working, then you're not going to know how then to communicate what you need. And when you don't communicate what you need, then certainly your spouse, you put them in a position of a grave disservice, because now you put them on this standard that they're never going to reach, because you don't know what it is. So you got to know what you need, and then you got to know how to communicate that. And it is also important. He talked about how we preserve certain blocks of time to be able to talk about certain things. And that is also one of those areas that you got to block off and create that space where we're going to talk about these things, but our discussion is in no way intended to belittle, demean, hurt, devalue either one of us, but it is to say, okay, let's talk about it. You remember when we did this right here? Don't do that, because that didn't work, But what we can do is, so the second part of that is we can say what's not working, but be prepared to offer a replacement. Be prepared to offer a solution for what was broken, how then we can make that better. And so it did take, conversations, because I'll say, whenever I approach these kinds of things, whenever I was doing it years ago, he wasn't in a space to receive it right away. Mm-hmm. And his response to me was, Sheikah, golly, what is it now? Sheikah, you just making a big deal, and you being extra, and you being blah, 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 blah. And I just stood my ground. And Lord, now, if I need to say this thing differently, you tell me how to say it, because he didn't hear it, blah, 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 blah. And so that was maybe 2 or 3 years of plowing bad habits, breaking old routines, to get us to a place where we're moving along a wavelength now that is identified and established as Cam and Sheikah. Not just Cam or just Sheikah, but so it was creating, so we got 2 different songs playing, good songs, but they're not meshing. Let's start over and play a song that both of us can dance to.
Okay. He used to tell me all the time, what's more important, that you say it or that I receive it? Because I can't hear it the way you saying it. And I was like, I said when I said it.
That's good.